Welcome, and thanks for tuning in to DirectLine, brought to you by Lighthouse Cove. I'm Katrina Sacay, the Business and Marketing Coordinator here at Lighthouse Cove, and I'll be your host this week. I'm really excited for today's conversation with our guest, Ethan McPeak, who will be talking about his impact as a board member and how he became a booster of Lighthouse Cove. We're so glad you're here. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Hi, Ethan.
Hello.
It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a small business owner, and by that, just a single proprietor. Started my company, Newer Benefits Consulting, back in 2013. So that's what I do for work.
What does your company do?
I'm an employee benefits consultant, so help companies choose and work through their benefits for their employees. So
Wonderful. And you're self-employed. You're the sole proprietor, yep. I think you said, yes. And then can you tell me a little bit about your family?
Sure. I have a wife, Janine, who we've been married 20 years. And she is a native of England, but migrated to Australia when she was 8. And we met back in late 2002. And then shortly after, she moved here. So she's here, and we have 2 teenage kids, a 17-year-old daughter, Harper, and a 15-year-old son, Hunter.
Wow. And let's just back up a little bit. If your wife was living in Australia, how did you 2 meet?
So I went to school in Arizona, at Arizona State University, and became good buddies with an exchange student there that was from Australia. And so he and I were buddies for about a year. And then the following semester, we decided to get a place together, and his girlfriend at the time came over from Australia. So we all lived together and just became very, very close friends. So I promised them that if they ever got married, I'd come to their wedding. So shortly after I graduated, I guess during my first job, I got an email that they were getting married. So I had no money, just put it on a credit card, flew to Australia. And then my wife, Janine, was the bridesmaid of the girl, of my friends from Australia. So
that's quite a story, but I mean, having done it myself, that, how did you 2 ended up growing the relationship and end up that she, did you stay there for a little bit, or, I mean, how did that part go?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we kind of, hit it off pretty good right out of the gates. So we had already started planning a trip to have her come visit. I think, this was in February that I was there. And then we planned a trip where she was going to come out in August to stay for several weeks. But she ended up flying out this is kind of crazy, just for a few days for my birthday, which was in May, to surprise me. So we, had that time together, and then she came out in August, and we spent several weeks together, and then I flew the following Christmas back to Australia. And then that's when I proposed to her. So pretty short.
So how many months was that? I'm
within a year.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay, I have you beat. I married my husband within 9 months.
Wow.
Oh, dear. When you know, right?
I guess.
You mentioned me before that you and your family love to travel. What are some of the places that you have all traveled to?
Well, obviously my kids have been back to Australia many, many times to see their family over there. So, and I've been, prior to me meeting my wife, and I guess after, I've probably been to Australia 5 or 6 times. Kids have been over there well north of 10 times. And then while they've been over there, they've done stuff kind of regionally in Australia, but gone to Bali, and some different kind of Australian, that's some of their destinations that they like to travel to. And then as a family, we have been, all over the US to different theme parks. We're kind of theme park nerds. So we've been to, Holiday World down in Indiana, and Dollywood and Tennessee, and down the Smoky Mountains. And we've been up north and through New York City. And then internationally, we took a trip to Northern Europe, and Amsterdam, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, um, Estonia.
Wow, Estonia.
Yeah,
You've been
that
to some
was,
incredible places.
yeah, really very fortunate to be able to travel. We went to Hawaii, which was great, this
Hmm.
past spring break.
What was the most favorite place that you've traveled to?
Well, that I've traveled to is probably Thailand. That
Mm.
was a pretty amazing place. The people, the food, everything was awesome.
Hmm.
I would say as a family, while the Northern Europe trip was pretty amazing, that Finland really stood out only because we stayed with a good friend of mine in Finland. And so we got the kind of, it's always different when you stay with someone versus, doing your own thing. And he had had a kind of off-grid cottage that was, in an island in the Baltic Sea, and just had wood-fired saunas, and did the sauna thing where you'd go in the sauna, then go in the cool water, and it was just beautiful and awesome. And I think, from a family standpoint, that's what most, the kids and Janine really kind of remember, was how special that was. So
Yeah. Oh, that sounds incredible. Um, Talking of family, you were telling me that your mom and dad both grew up working in the field. Um, could you tell me a bit more about what your parents did?
yeah, I mean, as best as I can remember, right?
Yeah.
My earliest memories of my father was when he worked at Hope Homes, which I'm not sure if Hope Homes is still going or not. But that was in Streetsboro, Ohio, and back then it was a lot more rural. It wasn't developed. So one of my earliest memories was that house was on some land with lots of woods. And back then, I guess my dad was still young and still rode dirt bikes. So I remember being on the back of a dirt bike when he wasn't working there. Well, or when he was there but not working, he could take the dirt bike on the property. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that was obviously very early on for him. And then I can't remember if he went right from Hope Homes to North Coast Community Homes.
Hmm.
I cannot remember that. But then he was the CEO of North Coast Community Homes for what I think was probably close to 30 years,
Yeah.
maybe
Wow.
longer.
It's a long career.
And so that's kind of his background. And then my mom worked at United Way for a while, a place in Akron called Minter, which I can't remember specifically what they did, but they were associated with the DD community. Um, and then Our Lady of the Wayside for a
Okay.
while. So yeah,
And wow, so you have quite an expensive background. And then you also had a sister with a disability.
yeah, yeah. My sister Marin
How do you say
was,
her name? Maren?
yeah, Marin,
Yeah.
Maurin.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, so she was born in 1980 when I was already two. But yeah, she was profoundly developmentally disabled. So, blind, not mobile. Um, yeah. So that was a difficult childhood.
Hmm.
Because she had needed a lot of intensive special care, but kind of went through, I think early on, I remember going to Hattie Larlam as a
Hmm.
young kid. And I specifically remember they had this awesome train layout there, but when we'd go to see her, and then she went to Rosemary Center and was there for many, many, many years. And then was in her final years was at a group home for several years. So
Yeah. And you said she came home every weekend as well, your
yeah,
parents.
for the most part, my dad was pretty diligent about that. That she was going to be involved in our lives, and she was. And if it wasn't every weekend, it was close.
Yeah.
So
Wow. And I remember you told me that this kind of had quite an effect on what you think about DSPs, um, and influenced your decision to serve on our board. Do you remember how you got introduced to Lighthouse Cove?
yeah, it was Kim Larson Phillips. Um, she was a former board member, and I think a long term. Presume she was a longer term board member, but she had reached out to
Yeah.
me and asked if I'd get involved in it, and it was just essentially
Hang
SPs
on.
have a special place in my heart for the work that they do, and there were some special ones over the years that worked with her that I just think the world of, right? And I think
Hmm.
that the work that they do is it's God's work, right? It's a very, very difficult job where
Hmm.
oftentimes financially you're not rewarded a lot. So you really have to do it with a lot of heart and a lot of love. And yeah, so to join an organization that, you know, that's what they do is profound, is s- help DSPs,
Hmm.
you know, in the state of Ohio, and now looking to expand beyond that.
Yeah.
Um, Again, it was a no-brainer to be a part of an organization like that. So
Well, we appreciate all the time you've served with us. You've been on the board now for about 5 to 6 years.
yeah, I know that you had just said that, and I was thinking it was pre-COVID, which I know
Pre-COVID.
was six years ago, believe it or not. Gosh, now, so yeah, it might even be a little bit longer than that, but yeah.
Yeah. We are very grateful to have you. You are a fantastic volunteer. You like to volunteer at all our events, and you've become known as the Lighthouse Cove barista. You're very good at helping with our coffee and amongst other things. I know at the DSP event, we were talking about how you brought in all I think it was the Tony Thomas Award guests. You
But
help them
yeah,
find their
yeah,
seating. And we could not run our events without the help of our board members. If you've ever attended an event, they are very lengthy and I mean, there's just a lot that goes into them, many moving parts. And we are very grateful for that. Um, I think earlier you mentioned, you touched on like you're also a sponsor or a booster for Lighthouse Cove. And we were talking a little earlier about why you chose to be a booster and what that means to you.
yeah. I mean, I think it's just a couple of things, right? When you join a board, there's just two basic things you should do: is you should give back, like it's the volunteering piece that we sort of spoke about, and you should give financially. So that's kind of the simple answer, right? Just making sure that you contribute financially. That's a big part of what a board member should do, and feel strongly about doing that. So,
Yeah. And we really appreciate everything that you give us to support our events and everything. Um, One of the other questions, or one of the last questions is outside of your work, what do you like to do for fun?
my absolute main hobby is gardening. So I spend at least probably a couple hours when I can in the garden,
Oh,
um, pretty much every day, if I can. And then
I'm going to be
obviously
getting
when
some
I'm, yeah,
tips from you the next time I see you. I need some help with my garden. I like gardening, but I don't know always how to put that garden together.
I think a lot of what gardening is just like anything, is just making lots and lots of mistakes and then learning
Hmm.
from them year over year. So
Yes.
I think there's a lot to be said for longevity in gardening and having done it for a long time.
Hmm.
Yeah, so when I'm not crazy with my kids, which that eats up a lot of time, then I like to be in the garden, and I also work out and play basketball. So, and
Yeah.
again, when I'm not injured,
When you're not
which
injured. Are you
which
injured
tends to
right
happen a
now?
little bit more and more these days the older I get. So,
Yeah. Are you injured right now? Or are you good? Are you playing basketball?
um, I've got a foot issue going on at the moment. So, yeah, I'm hopefully we'll be back in the next week or so.
Yeah. And do you play weekly?
If I mean, the guys that I play with, we play 3 times a week. So if it's
Three
very rare
times?
that I can squeeze that in. But I try to get two in, if not one. So at
Wow,
least
that's a lot. 3 times a week. You guys must be good. What kind of team are you on?
it's just a bunch of old, washed up guys that a lot of whom were relatively good back in the day. I play with a former Harlem Globetrotter. He's awesome.
Who?
Couple of Division 1 players, and just some. Yeah, it's a gamut. We don't
Wow,
typically
that's
let too young a kids play because we're just not fast enough anymore. But lots of old guys with lots of braces and whatnot on, but very high Qs. So we play well, and it's competitive and fun, and yeah, so it's a good time. It's,
do you have games as well? I mean, or do you just, is it more of a,
no,
you just
yeah, they're
play when you
games.
like
We
to?
have pickup games that we get there and kind of organize, and yeah, go from there. And it's fun to win, but also if you win, you keep playing. So if you play for a couple hours straight, that's usually I'm having a hard time moving around the rest of that day whenever we play. But it's great. I want to keep doing it as long as I can do it. I think it's great for your body, but I think me more so just for my mental health too, just to get out and exercise and kind of feel like you still have a little bit of mojo, even though you don't really as much as you used to. But
I hear you on that one.
yeah,
So joyful reaching this age.
yeah,
Anyway, well, thank you for joining us today, Ethan.
of
And
course,
like we said, we really appreciate all the time and energy you've put into being a member of our board and also as a booster. And
yeah, of
I
course, no worries.
appreciate you chatting with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I am going to stop the recording.
With the launch of Lighthouse Cove, our work continues with the growing and renewed direction of our podcast, The Direct Line. With conversations, stories, and on-location interviews, The Direct Line supports the mission of Lighthouse Cove to educate, elevate, and empower professionals across the IDD field. Tune in to the Direct Line podcast, brought to you by Lighthouse Cove every Thursday on YouTube and all other podcast platforms. Lighthouse Cove, it's more than a name. It's who we are.